everyone, in this video, we will explain to you the neighborhood principle. Neighbor principle is a principle of English law which says that a person should take reasonable care to avoid acts or omissions that she or he can reasonably foresee as likely to cause injury to the neighbor. But who is our neighbor? People always thought our neighbor is people who live next door. Wrong. The answer is the persons who can be closely and directly be affected in our act. The standard was set by Lord Atkins in the famous English case, which is Donoghue versus Stevenson. The neighbor principle is based on Christian principle of loving your neighbor.
In 26th of August 1928, Mrs. Donoghue went to a cafe with a friend. Her friend brought her a bottle of ginger beer and an ice cream. The ginger beer came in an opaque bottle so that the contents could not be seen. Mrs. Donoghue poured half of the contents of the bottle over her ice cream and also drank some from the bottle. After eating part of the ice cream, she then poured the remaining contents of the bottle over the ice cream, and a decomposed nail emerged from the bottle. As a result, Mrs. Donoghue suffered gastroenteritis. Mrs. Donoghue subsequently took legal action against Mr. David Stevenson, the manufacturer of the ginger beer. She lodged a writ in the Court of Sessions, Scotland's highest civil court, seeking £500 damages.
Mr. Donoghue's lawyers claimed that Stevenson had breached a duty of care to his consumers and caused injury through negligence. At the time, this area of civil law was largely untested. Stevenson's lawyers challenged Donoghue's action on the basis that no precedents existed for such a claim. As a result, the judges dismissed this action due to a lack of precedent. However, one of the judges, Lord Atkins, concluded that love your neighbor in law should become you should not injure your neighbor, something that became known as the neighborhood principle. Even though they are completely stranger, Mrs. Donoghue still have the right to expect that Stevenson should ensure the beer produced was safe from snail bits. As a result, Stevenson became liable and Mrs. Donoghue won the case.
A similar case to Donoghue versus Stevenson is Grant versus Australian Knitting Mills. In 1935, Dr. Grant, the plaintiff, had bought an undergarment from a retailer. The undergarment is manufactured by the defendant, Australian Knitting Mills. Later on, Dr. Grant found out that he had contracted dermatitis. The undergarment was in a defective condition owing to the presence of an excess of sulfite. It was found out that the manufacturer had been negligently left it in the process of manufacture.
In this case, the buyer sued the retailer in contract and the manufacturer in tort. The Privy Council held that the defendants were liable to the plaintiff, although there is no privity between Dr. Grant and the manufacturer. The decision of this case is bound to the Donoghue versus Stevenson's case since there are similar cases.
In conclusion, it is argued that the neighborhood principle provided a good conceptual starting point for the law in this field. The neighborhood principle remains the foundation of the law on the duty of care, but it has been added to and refined by the courts over the years, thus should not be relied upon slavishly or in a blinkered fashion.